This is the Red Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Oh, for 5 years. 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is, oh, no, it's not East Central Alberta, Canada. The slightly less frozen tundra that is Minnesota. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I'm Toolman Tim. Today is September 14th, 2023, and this is episode 368 of Workshop Radio. We're going to open right up with an I shit you not instance. I don't know what you want to call it, the opening segment here before we get into the announcements. And this one's a little different. This one is a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And it is always said that his saying was, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. Now, my dad always likes a saying like that. He shared it with me a lot, or at least that concept. However, the problem is that Abraham Lincoln probably didn't actually say that quote, which I thought was kind of interesting. So leave it to me to ruin a good quote, but it doesn't make the quote any less true. So I went on Quote Investigator, and they said it actually started, the first time it's ever been in print was 1956. A woodsman was once asked, what would you do if you had just 5 minutes to chop down a tree? He answered, I would spend the first 2.5 minutes sharpening my axe. And then in 1901, an adage about the value of sharpening an axe was printed in the Times, and Young Man by Josiah Strong said he will see the necessary time spent in preparation for his life work is better spent than as if he rushed into it ill-prepared. Time spent in sharpening the axe may well be spared from swinging it. Now here's the deal, guys. I love that saying, and I don't care if Abraham Lincoln said it or not. But it always reminds me of my grandfather. He's been passed away for about 15, 16 years now. But for many, many years, he would cut pulpwood, one of the hardest jobs out there. They wouldn't just cut it, but they would peel it. So these would be long, softwood trees. They would cut down, limit, and then him and the boys, his sons, would peel the pulpwood. Now, everybody always used to say, Roy, I don't know how you'd get so much done. And what he would do is, at the end of the day, he would fell as many trees as he thought he could work with the next day. He would sharpen his saw, he'd limb them, he'd have everything ready to go. He would also gas up and oil up his chainsaw that night before he left site. So when he showed up the next day, he was ready to go bam, 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 all that preparation ready to go to work. Whereas everybody else, they would show up, well, you have to put gas in it, put oil in it. Oh, I didn't sharpen my chain last night. And then they'd start felling trees. That's just Gramps being prepared the night before. And every time I hear this saying, whether it was Abraham Lincoln or some, Times of Young Men book from 1901, doesn't matter. I love it. And I think it's an adage that us as the preparedness minded could live by for sure. Real quick, guys, give me a thumbs up if the audio is coming through good. I've got my normal setup here. It's probably going to be a bit echoey because I'm in a hotel room, but thanks for hanging out with me tonight. So it is Thursday, isn't it? My God, being on the road always screws me up. So Fortress K9 is our Thursday evening sponsor. And Joel, I can't wait. I'm going to get to see him at Self-Reliance Festival. It's awesome. Can't wait to see him. If you're looking for a little bit more in the way of, how do I want to put it? Ass kickery. That's the word we're looking for. That is totally not an English word. Then subscribe to the Protection Dog podcast. And it's not just about dogs, guys. It's about rebuilding your life from the ground up, taking those ashes, putting them together, adding something to them, and building a foundation that was better and stronger than the life you had before. Number 2, Self-Reliance Festival. Tickets are already sold for Prepper Camp, so you're already done. You can't get there now. Might be able to sneak in. No, you won't even be able to do that. Anyway, Self-Reliance Fest, guys. Go to selfreliancefestival.com. I'm going to be there. Jack Spirko, Joel Salton, John Willis, Nicole Sauce, Brian Alexevich, There's going to be a meat off, beat off. I don't know what you want to call it. Some sort of meat showdown from the butchers. It's just going to be a great time. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, it is totally worth slightly less than $100 to go there for 2 days. Once again, to get a verbal beatdown in the most inspirational way possible, because you'll be driving home from it and you'll think, I'm so glad I went, but I wish it went longer. And finally, Patch of the Month Club, guys. If you're looking for a way to support the workshop, this is the way to do it. I believe in value for value exchange, which you'll hear the other podcast I recorded today while driving was all about free market exchange and anarchy and the whole works. So if you're looking to participate in some agorist activity, then go to patchofthemonth.co and sign up. $10 a month, $100 a year. You get a patch. I get some financial support, and it's a win-win. With that, so I've got my notes all over the place here tonight. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll see me looking at my phone, not because I'm, too cool for school or anything like that. I'm just, I've got my notes in my notepad and I've got some notes on the screen. So, and even Nate was nice enough to send me some questions. So if you guys have questions for me, throw them in the comments tonight. I will star them, work my way through. Nate Lemaster, though, he says the Abraham Lincoln quote makes total sense. I'm back to listening to ham radio content, so a lot is refreshed in my mind for this weekend's demo. 110%. It doesn't matter how much a person knows. Every time you teach, you learn more. And that was the thing today. I was thinking, I want to do this episode on anarchy because I had a new member of the community was like, what the hell are you talking about with that? And I realized, Tim, you need to go back and retouch on these things. And I think I went like 35 minutes just like that off the cuff about it. And so I hope you enjoy it. I hope it makes some sense for you. No, I'm just kidding. So, but again, every time you tackle a topic, you learn a little bit more about yourself and about the topic itself. So I threw out to the workshop community tonight a bunch of different questions. I asked and got a bunch of different questions. So the first one, I like this one. Where are we here? What are you most the hardest one right here. What are you most looking forward to about your trip? Or what are you most looking forward to about your trip you're on? Sorry, missed that. A few things. First off, seeing my wife, my kids, and my dogs again. And I know you're like, oh, bullshit. Everybody has to say that. But honestly, 2 days in, guys, I'm missing them this time. And that is not the way it was last year. So that just means that Becky and I need to keep making the life we want to live so that her and I can travel together more. But yes, I mean, and that's the pat answer everybody gives. But I absolutely mean it. Angus, my little dog, too, for some stupid reason. But anyway, I do miss that. Honestly, these trips, the thing that I love the most about these trips is the get-togethers in person. You know, I love getting up in front of crowds and sharing my message. That's fun. I love, you know, spreading the gospel of the workshop. That's fun. But there is nothing better than the in-between downtime where somebody will come up and say, hey, Tim, I started this business because you give me a bit of a kick in the butt through your podcast. And you might not know who I am, but I just want to let you know. Sitting down with fellow content creators, sitting down with incredible people who you get to interview. But when it comes down to it, it is the in-person meetups that I absolutely friggin' love. To me, there is nothing better in the world than that. And I'm not bullshitting. You've probably heard, if you listen to Living Free in Tennessee, you can't listen to Nicole Sauce for very long without realizing that in-person meetups is where the power is. And you'll hear that from anybody in any sort of community or get together. But when you do it, it changes you. It's powerful. It's why I'm driving, 36 days, but how many, I can't remember how many. I reset my clicker, so I'll let you know what my kilometers are in the end, but it's going to be probably over 10,000. Yeah, it'd be close to 10,000. So because I love seeing people in person, I try to knock out as many things as I absolutely can. And, you know, it doesn't matter how much you try to meet up with everybody you can. It just doesn't always happen. Where I stopped here tonight, it turns out I'm only an hour away from Amy Dingman. Didn't know it. I'm not going to get to see her this time, and that sucks. But at some point, again, I will. And this is the cool thing about in-person meetups is because for the rest of the year, you kind of walk around, not in a funk, but you feel like, you know, Pigpen off of Charlie Brown. He has this cloud of stink following him around. Well, that's kind of how I feel. And I'm sure Becky would tell you that about me too. But when you're not around your like-minded folk, you kind of walk around with a bit of a cloud on you all the time. And it sucks because you feel like you have all this stuff that you want to talk to other people about. You want to share your concepts of the world, and you want to say, like, doesn't this just piss you off? And the only people you can talk to is your imaginary internet friends. And so when you get together, you realize, hey, I'm not alone. This is incredible. Yeah, it's cool to feel this way. And typically you get motivated to get shit done when you get home. Just don't feel overwhelmed. But for me, 100%, that is what I'm excited about. And hopefully getting together with Bill Fortune to discuss in person a few things. I'm really looking forward to that. Just got to make the date work and give him a call. That'll be fun. But beyond getting to see the family at the end of the trip, getting together and see everybody out there, not even bullshitting. That is 100% what I'm looking forward to. All right. Next question. Who carries an extra spare tire for long travels? This was more to the entire community. Okay. And what they mean by that is an extra spare tire, not just a spare tire. So redundant oxymoron or something. We were joking about that. But when it comes down to it, yeah, do you keep two? And of course, this came from a Jeep guy, right, Pippin? For me, a couple of thoughts on that. First off, the old Dodge I had 2 trucks ago, had the 6'6" box, I believe it was. Now this one is the 5'8" box. That extra 10 inches makes all the difference in the world. Insert "that's what she said" joke there. Sorry guys, I couldn't resist. And so I don't have a ton of space. Every bit of space is kind of calculated down to the last square inch for me, figuring things out. And I did some stuff in the background, in the back seat of the truck to free up a bunch of space, but I still don't have room for a second spare tire. But a couple things I do. I need to shout out to a couple new fellers in here. First off, Christopher John Muhammad. Good evening, everyone checking in from the Caribbean. Great to have you. Love to see you. And David Hosfeld. Great to see you as well. Said people greatly underestimate the benefits of fellowship. 100% they do, because most people aren't used to fellowship. If you come from a religious background, you might be, but most people who have spent the last 20 years in Western society aren't so keen on fellowship. And a lot of us, and this is going to sound funny, but a lot of people tend maybe slightly toward the introverted side. And so that can be tough. But when you go, you'll think, oh man, this is great. And Lone Canadian, how are you, brother? I recorded an episode just for you today. So it says, tough when you make memories without the wife. Shared memories evoke feelings of closeness that you can't express telling the stories later. 100%. And how could you not miss Angus? Ain't that the truth? Because eventually, if you make all these memories yourself, you just become that person that says one time at band camp for all the rest of the school year. And it sucks because you feel out of the loop. So hopefully, yeah, anyway, Becky and I can travel some more together, but it's good to have all the new faces in here. Really appreciate you guys. So yeah, extra spare tire, no. What did I do? I did go out and upgrade this year from what was a donut tire. I honestly thought that my Ram 1500 had a full-size spare in it. Turns out it didn't. When I punctured that tire last time, I put it on, and oh no, it says do not exceed like 70 or 80 kilometers an hour or whatever, but it was a piece of junk. So I've been worried about that since Chris Dixon, good brother of mine, mentioned to me, Tim, you really should get yourself a full-size spare. So, of course, since I have an incredible brother-in-law who knows everything there is to know about vehicles and all this shit, he takes some measurements, finds me the right rim, the right tire. So we have a perfect match of a tire. And so I have a full-size spare underneath. That's the best I can do. I have a tire plug kit. The heavy-duty one used to come in a red plastic container, but I de-kitted it, took it all out of the kit, put it in a small bag, and now it fits in a pouch in my back. I have a back seat organizer, which is incredible. So, hey, 40 live viewers right now. Thank you, guys. Starting an hour early pays off sometimes. Great to see a huge crowd in here. Nate says, Aaron will always remember the first LFTN alone. I will always remember my trip to Self-Reliance Fest alone. We'll both remember our trips each together. Yeah, it's special, isn't it? So yeah, I don't have room for a second spare, but I have a full-size spare underneath. And guys, teach yourself how to use a tire plug kit. They're awesome. I took one all the way to Nova Scotia and back with me. And I thought, oh, this is great. I have one. I realized I'd never used it before. So teach yourself how to use a tire plug kit, but do it on a sunny Sunday afternoon in your yard or by the garage. Try to do it while it's on the vehicle, because that is quicker, easier, and a little more frustrating to do when it's on the vehicle. But if you can learn how to do that on the side of the road, it's going to save you a shit ton of time. I got a video on that kit, and that's what I did. It was a little tiny vehicle. I think it was my daughter's kit, I think, or a vehicle. And oh man, I was getting so mad. I had to cut out some expletives because I was getting pretty upset. So yeah, there's that. Also, have yourself. So I moved things around in my truck this time. When I get home, I'm going to do a whole video of my whole pack out for the truck. But it was like $100, I think. It was on Amazon, and it's got it fits the entire back of my driver's seat. It's got MOLLE webbing on it, and then it has a bunch of individual packages, or I don't know, kits that you can put on. It comes with 5. And you fit it through. Yeah, don't worry. Lone Canadian, I'm getting to that. And so you fit it in through the MOLLE webbing, and I've got it so organized. And Byron, I don't. I have a really good plug kit. So Byron says don't buy the cheap plugs. The ones I have are really good. It was like $30 for a kit, so I was happy with that. So this organizer now, you guys know, you've seen before, I used to use that big cube I got from Cat. It was taking up too much space under the back seat. So I took a 12-volt compressor, little tiny guy. He fits in one pouch. And then I have a LifePo 4 battery booster pack, fits in another. It has an extension that'll allow me to run 12-volt things on it, so it's still all cordless. And then I have the tire plug kit in another one. I got a first aid kit here for now. I'm pretty sure that Chuck has one for me when I get down there. So this is going to replace the one that I won from Doc Bones and Nurse Amy. So the whole thing is organized. And what that did was it completely cleaned out my back seat. So now I was able to put some more. I've got my, last minute grab and go bag. There's one that sits down in the floor of my truck that's always there. It's just like, underwear, socks, 5 days of prescriptions, deodorant, soap, that kind of stuff. It's all down in there. I got a tow rope. I got some clevises, 2 ratchet straps, and a roll of toilet paper, and all of that fits in my floor. So the only thing I have underneath the back of my seat is a tub of washer fluid. I always keep an extra one of those on hand. Hey, Rachel Brown, great to have. Oh, yes. Chuck has 2 kits for me. I can't wait to see you, brother. So that is the organization of it. I try to keep it clean. I say that. You look in there now, and it's not that. 50 live viewers. Great to have you guys. I try to keep things the most organized as I can, so that in case of a rollover, there's not going to be something that's going to absolutely clobber me, but it's not a perfect scenario. I also I haven't showed you guys this yet, but I decided on, we went back and forth in the Telegram group. I put a solar panel on my fold-up tonneau cover. My brother-in-law come over, he says, you need to rivet that down. I'm like, but I don't want to put holes through. He says, it'll only be in the top. You can always fill them if you need to. So I riveted the 50-watt solar panel to the top side of my kit, of my folding tonneau cover. It works great. I've got a bunch of ideas on how to expand that, but for right now, it is number 1 for that. So yeah, and Rachel says, hey, look, you're live on the road. Yes, I have a mobile studio. I even have a backdrop. I have a flip down. It holds was it a 5x7 or a 9x7 black backdrop? The whole thing fits into a little kit. Yeah, it's great. I love it. I got my regular microphone, my regular webcam, and I have my Chromebook. I even upgraded this guy right here. That's the most that I found in the yard that the dog's got a hold of. So yeah, that's a long ways around the extra spare tire thing. But yes, here's another good one. I love this. What one paperback book do you want with you when it all goes? It says tats up. I'm thinking it's supposed to be tits up, but in Into the World as you know it kind of thing. Kim Palu Riviera watching from the Philippines. Great to have you. So most people who've listened to me before, you probably already know the answer, but I guess if it was, okay, it's kind of on the nose, but if it were an end of the world as we know it scenario, I'd really want the stand. The uncut edition, it's like 1,100 pages. The problem with that is the person said in the question, it was paperback. That damn paperback sucks because it's known for the pages falling out. But if I could only read one book for the rest of my life, because the world had ended, I know it's kind of ironic, but probably The Stand. If the world hadn't have ended at this point, it would probably be Atlas Shrugged, because there's something in that book that you could read it so many times and unpack more and more and more. And if it's a post-collapse scenario, I mean, I guess it would still be a fun book to read, but again, it would be a little bit on the nose, and you might be more worried about, I don't know, cutting firewood and preserving food than rebuilding a free market economy. But I guess starting from scratch, maybe that's what you would want. Absolutely. And Lone Canadian says, one paperback, one with soft pages. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. That's back in the day when my dad grew up. They had it wasn't outdoors, but it was still a porta potty or an outhouse, but it was attached to the house in the woodshed. So there it is right there. Brian Roberts says Sears catalog. That's what Dad always said. They had a Sears catalog that they would use. So yeah, yes, one with soft pages would be great. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to get poison ivy or anything up there. That would be bad. But yeah, The Stand would be number one, and I think right now Atlas Shrugged would be number two, simply because they're a weighty tome of literature. I guess you can call The Stand literature. It's pretty good, but it would just it would help pass the time, even if it is slightly on the nose. Views on vehicle locking lug nuts, and where could one keep the key? Okay, so yeah, Nate gets brownie points for trying hard. He says Encyclopedia of Country Living for me. And you're right. I understand. If I wanted to rebuild the world that I lived in and, learn all the things, then yes, I would. But that would be my choices. So if you guys haven't seen these, because before I moved to Alberta, I hadn't. But apparently stealing wheels and stealing rims is something that happens in a lot of places. And I guess in Nova Scotia, we just never had expensive rims that anybody would want to steal, or I don't know, or you'd have expensive rims, but you'd never have a vehicle to put them on. So if you look at some vehicles, or a lot of vehicles, it's becoming commonplace. One of the lug nuts on each wheel has a funny diagram on it, or a funny kind of shape. And that is like a locking lug nut. The only way to take it off is to use the inverse key that looks like a socket with a funny shape in it. Now, don't lose that, because if you do, you can take them off, but it takes some work. Project Farm has a great video trying to destroy locking lug nuts. So if you're ever interested, check that out. So where should you leave it? Well, Chris Dixon, he said in the comments earlier today, and he's right, in a bright colored bag, and you should leave it in your glove box. That's normally where I leave it. I went in and had my wheels rotated and aligned the other day, and that's where it was, in a little orange baggie that it comes with, and it would sit right in the front dash, or in the front glove box. However, after I went there, I organized my entire truck, and I put everything in that box, or that back of the seat organizer, which was great. That was one of the things. So I go back. Also, if you've ever had your wheels off, you need to go back after 50 to 100 kilometers and get them retorqued, on the off chance that one of them comes a little bit loose. So go back and get your tires retorqued. So I went back to do it. And the kid jumps right up. He's like, oh, I know where your locking lug nut is. And he opens up the car, looks in there. He's like, he gets a look on his face like, shit, did I forget to put that back? I'm like, no, you didn't. I just moved it. And yeah, so anyway, I had to dig it out for him. So that's where it is, simply because I don't want to lose it. And I always know where it is. But yes, if you are going to the dealership to get your tires rotated, do the dude a favor, put it in your glove box, or in a cup holder, because then they'll find it. But before you leave, make sure they've put it back, because tire techs are notorious for leaving them in their pockets and losing them. You can lose that as quick as you can lose a Bic lighter or a Bic pen. Nate says he hates those locking lug nuts. Easy offs and a hammer work best. And they are weird, because if you're not careful, you could strip them out pretty easy. So I don't like that about them, but I do understand the need for them, especially in certain areas. Alberta's getting bad for that. All right. Ideas for a vehicle loadout on a long distance travel. Well, after this is my third really long road trip, and fourth significantly long road trip in 18 months. So I'm starting to get it down to a science a little bit, but your emergency things for sure. things to deal with tire emergencies. That's the thing, an extra spare, a compressor, a tire plug kit, something for jumping it with. If you have a truck, a tow rope is great. I've got one of those now. Like I said, clevises. Something people forget all the time is a jug of good quality washer fluid, winter for wintertime, bug for summertime. But beyond the vehicle kind of loadout, something else that's fairly important is making sure you get the maintenance done. So getting an oil change done. I had premium washer wipers on earlier today. I had those put on because mine were starting to wear out. Stuff like that, keeping your maintenance up, rotating your tires, having a good alignment done. All of that stuff hopefully prevents you needing a lot of things from your loadout. But then again, like I said, I have the drop dead emergency kit that I keep down in the floor. Also, I upgraded it was just a standard USB port. I hauled that out and upgraded it to a USB-C port so I can get better power coming through it. Standardizing on a lot of USB stuff, that's what I've been doing. Having some good quality USB cables that aren't going to break really quick. Those are great to have. I added the little solar panel to mine this year. Something that I love, and I picked it up recently on Amazon, and it's a small collapsible garbage can that straps to the passenger side headrest. They can't feel it, but it's about yay big, and if you were to crush up a beer can, no, I'm just kidding, but crush up cans or bottles, it would hold 6 or 8 in there. So, I mean, any garbage you're going to create between gas stops or between stops for fuel up will fit in there no problem. And I can reach it, the old dad reach around candy thing where they want to, you put your hand back and you're like, hey, give me some candy. Well, you just go a little higher and throw the stuff in the garbage instead. And then just make sure you empty it every time you stop. I know we're talking about loadouts, but a couple things I talk about a lot is wash your window every time you stop and wash your lights every couple of times for sure, because bugs will get all over them and you'll be surprised at how less effective the lights can be. What else do I take for long trips? I've got a paper atlas down I discovered another cubby a while back, way down in the bottom. I keep that in there. I keep some of those travel johns that I've actually been able to avail myself of a couple of times now. There's a bit of a learning curve, but they work really well. I would suggest keeping a few of them around. They're not cheap, but I know. I knew Brian, as soon as I said that, Brian would love that. And we're just going to leave that alone. If you guys want to see something highly inappropriate, then come back and rewatch the live stream and you'll see his comments. But Homestead says food, water, tools, repair kit, extra oils and fluids, medical comms, blanket, small stove for coffee, for God's sake, and protection. We're allowed that here in the States, most anyway. Oh, hey, Tools with Souls. Great to see you, brother. Said spray your headlights with WD-40 and headlights will stay clean. I'm going to try that. I think I've heard that before, and whatever happens in one brain and out the other. So I will. Thank you, because I know everybody says, okay, I'm going to talk about this in a second too, Nate, about my lights. I've made a bunch of upgrades to this vehicle. So everybody says the bugs are thick where they come from. And I'm sure they are. And where I grew up in Nova Scotia, they were thick. There is something about the bugs on the prairies, and I wish Chris Dixon was in here to explain it. There's some sort of bug that when it hits your windshield, it makes, I don't know, about a 2 to a 3 inch splatter on your windshield that's instantly caked to it, that no matter how much washer fluid you spray on it, no matter how powerful of a washer fluid you buy, it will not get it off. So I don't know. We have these super bugs in Alberta. So I'm going to try the WD-40 thing and I'll see what happens, because yeah, it sucks. The lights. And of course, up here, you get the salt spray off the roads in the wintertime, an hour's drive, and all of a sudden your lights went from high to medium beam. And how many centimeters is that? Multiply it by 2.54 from inches and you'll get it. Nate says, do you run any off-road lights for super dark back roads no one is on? Yes, I do. So I always forget about talking about that. But yeah, I've made some upgrades. Some that are, they're all legal, okay? Perfectly legal. But a couple of them are kind of on the line of things. So I have the brightest, at least where I come from, Barrett put the legally brightest LED lights that you can have for daytime running lights in my truck. to the point where I get flashed quite a bit because people think I have high beams on. So that kind of sucks. I don't like that, but bright lights are super important. And when the LEDs are on, or when the high beams are on, they're even better. But I'll show you tomorrow, Nate, when you come down. Below my headlights, I have it's 30, maybe 42-inch curved light bar that's recessed into my bumper. And it's friggin' incredible. I want it curved for hitting the ditches. So we all use them. Most people use them in Alberta. In the wintertime, I mean, the deer are suicidal up here. So anything you can do to kind of lighten up the ditch and fill in the gaps where your lights aren't shining is awesome. So yes, I have those totally for when I'm driving when there's nobody else around. One other upgrade we did, we swapped out, and this is just something really simple, but the backup light, there's a little white LED that's angled down to kind of illuminate the box. We updated that to the brightest LED you could get. And it's not bad, but I love LEDs and I love light bars. Christopher John Muhammad says there are significantly less bugs around than 40 years ago, Caribbean perspective. I don't disagree with you at all. I want to say, now I can't judge based on the Canadian prairies because I've only lived here for 10 years, but the first 32 years of my life, I lived on the East Coast in Nova Scotia. And even though the bugs were thick, they were significantly less thick than they were when I was a kid. So most things get thicker as they get older. You know, most people are thicker in the head, but I would totally agree with you that bugs are thinner than they used to be. So upgraded lights. Oh, I had a 2-inch level kit put in the vehicle just because I wasn't getting a lot of clearance with the tires. So that just brought the front end up just a little bit, but we adjusted the lights afterwards. So if you ever put a little lift or anything in your vehicle, make sure you adjust the lights so that they, bugs went the way of my hair. That's what Brian Alexovich says. You are right on that. Tires, good aggressive tires. I use a good all-weather tire. There's all seasons tires, there's all weather, and then there's winter tires. I just get a really good aggressive all-weather tire. And of course I have 4-wheel drive. So that's enough for me. Lone Canadian, says cash to pay the farmer that pulls you out of the ditch with his tractor. Cash for 1,000 different reasons. But yes, cash. And I know I say it every time I come to the States, I'm still blown away by how much more cash is used down here than in Canada. I kept cash. I had a $100 bill in my wallet that had been in there for 3 weeks from when we went, or 2 weeks when we went to the West Edmonton Mall and hadn't used it. And whatever, I know it is what it is, but I come down with a little bit of cash for my wallet here because it's cool. It's just a lot more cash being used and I enjoy that. But yes, have cash on hand. Enough to get you to where you're going, depending on how far away you are. Multiple credit cards as well. I know some people say they hate credit cards, but I'm telling you, as a foreigner in a foreign land, multiple credit cards are your friend because there are times that I will pull up to a pump and that gosh darn Canadian credit card just will not work no matter what. It worked at the last pump, it'll work at the next pump, but at this pump, it just keeps saying, burner, try again. So I travel with, I think I got 4. So it's just good to have, don't rack them up, pay them off when you're done, but have multiple credit cards because otherwise you could get yourself hooped. We ran into this many years. It's so much better now, guys. I will say that. And oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. I'm losing it here. Homestead says, I always keep 300 to 400 cash on me and prepaid credit cards. Yes, nothing wrong with that at all. I'll leave Sol's comment there for you guys to read if you want to. But so it is, cash, credit cards. When I got stuck in the big Rogers IT outage last year, I was 4 hours away from home. So having some extra cash made it really easy to figure out whether we were going to continue our trip or drive home. But those are important things. Cash. We always say it. And yes, credit cards as well. But what I was saying, the pumps have gotten so much better for Canadians down in the States now because years ago, quite often, as you would go across the country, they would hold more and more and more money. Now with the PIN, it works really well. Years ago, when Becky and I traveled from Nova Scotia to Ontario through the States, by the time we got to where we were going, almost our entire 2 credit cards, the only cards we had were completely used, not because we used that much for gas, but because there was so much held on them. And it took like 5 days, and we were broke as a joke, as you can imagine. So that was not comfortable. I'm going to save this one question for last. I got 2 more questions here from Nate. If you guys got any more, I'll throw them up there. What do you do for food while on the road? So I used to keep a lot of snacks in the vehicle. And you know what I found out is that the more snacks were in the vehicle, the more that I would eat. So one thing I find is when I'm driving, I don't burn a lot of energy, of course. So if I have food on hand, I'm going to eat it. So what I try to do is have a very light breakfast. I do, when I book my hotels, I try to find them with a breakfast included. So I'll have a small breakfast, and that's all I need for the day. And then I'll have a nice sit-down supper. That's part of the comfort thing that I'm going to talk about. But I've really found that now I didn't drive 10 hours today, but 10 hours driving a day is my sweet spot because I can get up a decent time in the morning. I can get on the road. I can show up to my hotel. I can get out, do a little shopping if I need to, walk around, stretch my legs, and then go have a big or a decent size, like sit down, nice meal, as opposed to junk drive through, whatever you want, right? It doesn't matter. So what I find is that 10 hours works really great. So yeah, I'll try to book a hotel that has breakfast included so I don't have to pay for it. We have the app for Best Western now. We try to book everything with Best Western because we get a lot of points back. We've got a lot of free nights that way. And it'll tell you, hey, does it have a breakfast? What kind of breakfast? That sort of thing. So that's what I do. I try to stay away from gas station food because, my God, and I have a soft spot for gas station subs. It is like the most Homer Simpson confession ever, but I do. But I try not to. So breakfast in the morning at the hotel and then a nice sit-down supper when I get here. And I try to pick, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings tonight. And where did I go last night? I can't even remember now. But it was a nice sit-down meal. So try to find a nice place that you can go. Oh, at the diner. There's a really nice diner in Minot that I love going to. I've been to 4 or 5 times now. So, and another thing I try not to do is try not to overeat because, man, there's nothing worse than sitting in the vehicle thinking, why did I eat so much? So a small breakfast, when I'm done at night, have a meal. That's what I do for food. Also, I have a nice heavy-duty Yeti cooler. So when I go to these events, so tonight I'm going to go down, I'm going to fill it with ice. I'm going to bring some ice for drinks tomorrow night too, Nate. But get your cooler cooled down overnight before you put other stuff in it, then fill it up. And then I'm going to get creamer for coffee. That's important. And all the other foods, some meat and stuff for sandwiches, and just take it with me. It beats when you have stuff that you can eat yourself at these events. It's way better than eating out of a food truck the entire time because you're just going to feel like shit when you're done. But if I do need to pack something, or if I do want snacks on the road, bring it with you ahead of time. Buy a bunch of stuff at Costco, that sort of thing. Last trip, I brought a bunch of beef jerky, some nuts, things like that. Brought a case of Diet Dr. Pepper. And usually I bring a case of water, but I forgot to do that this time. So I've just been picking it up as I go. What do we got here? So just give me a second. And Soul says, I'm plenty fat enough. I look angry enough. Folks will just throw food at me like a bear. And yes, I would love to have a freeze dryer. And Soul says, are we looking forward to the palm reading scanner? Should mix well with all the social media credit scores. Yep. Yeah, actually, it's funny you'd mention that. I was looking at that while I was pumping gas tonight. I was looking at the guy next to me, and he goes over to the gas pump, and he holds his hand up and goes, beep. And I'm like, what the? And I realized it was an Apple Watch. I was like, kind of give me chills for a second. So, yeah, I saw that. Nate says, what is your favorite route to drive so far? So I totally do have a favorite route to drive down to Tennessee. It's not the way I'm going right now, simply because, but I'm doing it because I love Nate and Aaron. So it has nothing to do with that. But I believe it's the I-24. So the first day I don't have much of a choice. If I'm going to Tennessee, the shortest way to go is through Saskatchewan, cross at North Portal, and stop in Minot the first time. So it's 10 hours from my house to Minot. That's my first stop. And then from Minot, basically I can head east, kind of southeast toward Illinois, or I can head almost straight south kind of toward Iowa. And that's the way I like. And there's a couple of reasons, but the first one is almost zero traffic. You go through like Kansas and around St. Louis a little bit, and that's it. But you get the speed limit's 80 miles an hour. You get to do 85 mile an hour. You just make great time and there's zero stress. Lose yourself in an audiobook and drive straight south. So yeah, I can 3 10-hour days driving. So first night to Minot, second night to, it's the little town that's like a sister town. We talked about it recently. Council Bluffs, I believe it's called. So from there, and then the next night I am in Tennessee. So yeah, that's my favorite route to take. I love it. If we're coming back and want to kind of dilly-dally and go up through Montana to our post office box, I'll go west through South Dakota, but that is by far, I love it. So in my brain, of course, you know how I work. If I ever needed to get to our Tennessee property because things were bad, I have that route in my head. I can basically drive that now without any GPS or anything, but I also have another route slightly more to the west that would take me down and around any big cities, just in case. So I'm going to take that route sometime that I am not in a hurry to get somewhere. But yeah, this is definitely the way I love to go because you can basically put it in autopilot and not worry about it. What else we got here? And Nate says, I knew we were a bit out of the way, but you're not out of the way actually. So to run it through GPS, to go through Nate and Aaron's town or to go the way I go is only 2 hours difference. So that is like an extra 40 minutes driving per day if you split it up over 3 days. So you're not out of the way. It's just that, you know, once you start going over toward Fargo and then Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then getting closer and closer to Chicago, and then driving south through Illinois, you just deal with a lot of traffic. That's the only thing. But I'm glad I'm coming to see you. I've been threatening to do it for ages, and I haven't done it yet. All right, so this one here is probably my favorite question. What are some of your go-to comfort items when on a long trip, especially one this long? Well, I haven't done a Lone Canadian says an alternate route to avoid the silo farms. Yeah, kind of, something like that, sure. So the first one that I discovered on last year is bring a pillow from home. I talked to my chiropractor about that one time, and he's like, yeah, he said, you'll be surprised the difference of just having your own pillow will make. Because he said most times, you know, the beds are what they are at hotels, but it's the shitty pillows that really wreck your back. So having at least one of your own pillows that you're used to sleeping in, kind of with your own dent in it and everything, makes a huge difference for sleeping at night and feeling good when you get up in the morning and ready to hit the road. A white noise machine. This has become essential for me. Because at home we sleep with a box fan. I sure as shit ain't bringing a box fan to a hotel with me for starters. But when we discovered white noise machines, didn't know they were a thing till we opened the daycare, I fell in love with them. So we have one that plugs into the wall that we take in our grab and go bag when Becky and I travel together. But I have a much smaller grab and go bag that's just for me. I know, hard to believe. And I found recently a USB-C rechargeable one. So it just sits on my end table, completely cordless. The thing is awesome. And it drowns out any of that annoying background noise, because what ends up happening is only about every third hotel has a fan that you can turn on fan the whole time. So in order to travel and sleep and be comfortable, you know, I got the old tinnitus that needs to go away. So white noise machines are indispensable for travel. Love it. Sandals or slippers. I know that sounds funny. That's such an old man thing. But for me, the sandals are for driving with, because I kick them off as soon as I start driving. I hate having shoes on for long drives. Some people will be like, oh, it's illegal. I don't care. I really don't. I know that's the one thing, but just having something to slip on and slip off if you're, you know, running down to the ice machine or shit like that just makes you feel better. I don't know, but it's definitely a comfort thing. So I depend on the time of year. I'll either bring sandals or slippers with me, but also bring boots and shoes because you never know what the weather's going to be like. This isn't exactly a comfort item, but like I said, a 10 hour a day drive, because then it gives you just enough time to feel human when you get back. You can go for a dip in the pool, a nice meal, walk around at Walmart, do a little shopping, whatever it is that just helps you not go straight from driving straight to bed, because that just messes with a person if you do it for too long. What else do we have? Oh, Nexium for heartburn. I meant to mention that, because no matter how hard you try, you're going to eat shit that you shouldn't eat. And Nexium just works. That's a anti-discomfort item or something like that, but absolutely. And hey, L2 Survive, how are you? It says, what bourbon whiskey do you smuggle back to Canada, hypothetically? So, okay. I'm allowed. So yeah, anyway, this is one of the areas that I really do follow the rules, but you're allowed 40 ounces as a individual without getting taxed on it. If Becky and I both go, we're each allowed 40 ounces. So I just buy a really expensive bottle that I can get way cheaper in the States and take it back with me. I've got 2 bottles of Eagle Rare at home right now, so I don't need any more of that. But usually what I will do is I will go into a nice little, bourbon whiskey or spirits place, and I'll be like, hey, what do you have that's kind of middle of the road? And I'll look around and see if it's something that I've wanted to try. And if I can find it for a reasonable price that I know will be way cheaper than taking it back to Canada, then yeah, that's what I'll do. So usually I typically take 2 quarts back with me every time. Might pick up a package of cigars this time too, because Joel got me on those whenever we go to events. So I need to return the favor and bring him some cigars. But yes, 2 quarts of bourbon, kind of the best middle shelf bourbon that I can find that would be, I've bought a couple of bottles that are just over $100 down here that are $400 to $500 bottles in Canada. So it's great. And yeah, everybody keeps saying that about Eagle Rare. There's a guy I know down in Tennessee that can get cases of it, which is crazy. But yeah, it's I can't remember what I told you I paid for it. I think it was $140 a bottle or something in Canada. I can't remember, but bourbon's just crazy. I went to there's a really nice spirit shop in Minot that I go to, and that's where I got my 15-year-old bourbon last time. And I can't remember the brand of it, but I picked up a blend of 15 and 8-year bourbon there last night that I'm taking to Nate and Aaron's for making old fashions and sipping on. So Byron says, any tax on bringing cigars back? So no and yes. You're allowed a certain amount. I do not know what the limit is for cigars. For cigarettes, it's 200. Anything over 200, and you're going to be paying way too much to take them back. For dip, I think it's a sleeve of chew. So whatever that is, you're allowed per person. I've never really taken tobacco back, except one time we took a sleeve of chew back for one of my son's friends, but that was it. And yeah, so Nate says 35. That blows me away. 35 regular price for Eagle Rare, 99 at most stores. So yeah, you can take some cigars back. I got to look up and see what the exact limit is, but that's the limit for. And the thing is, you can take more. So if you got a killer deal on some bourbon or something, you could take it back with you. You're just going to pay a lot in taxes, which will still be cheaper, but to me, it's just not worth it. And it's not worth the headache of having to explain it and then tell the guys at the border office what it is, and then go inside and pay your taxes on it. And, I already have to make an entire list of it anyway. So Nate says we have 3 bottles ready for party Saturday night. One will be a Friday, tomorrow night drink. Nice. I love me some bourbon. And the number one creature comfort for me is audiobooks. Not just an audiobook, but a series of audiobooks. I need to have long ass books to listen to because I want to get lost in the world of the books while I'm driving. It helps me pass time like nobody's business. So for me right now, this was almost by mistake, but I've been listening to the Borrowed World series, and I fucking love that, guys. It blew me away. It's almost identical to the Going Home series, but boy, I gotta say, the author is talented. There's no repetition like other books in that series, if you know what I mean. He has a real way with metaphors and illustrations. And it's a really good book. Books 1 through 3 come in at 24 hours total. You can buy them as a volume. Books 4 through 6, the same thing. And then the rest of them you have to buy individually, but I'm loving it. So I love to drive. And so what I've been doing, just because I'm a geek, is I'm listening to, 6 or 7 hours of audiobook to start the day. That gets me through most of it. When that's done, I've usually had a bunch of random notes in my head that I've spoken to my phone. So then I record a half-hour podcast, and then I put it on local AM talk radio for an hour and listen to whatever's going on. I don't necessarily like all of what I hear, but I want to get the flavor of talk radio again and just hear how people, just the entire setup of the show. I just want to, so L2 Survive said, I was killed off in the 4th book of the Cascadia Fallen series. That's cool, man. I love hearing that. So, yeah, you got to have good audiobooks. Stephen King came out with a brand new book this time called Holly. Last year, I was so excited that his new book, Fairy Tale, come out. And to be honest, it was a bit of a disappointment. Billy Summers was his last good book 2 years ago. It was about a retired hitman that came out of retirement. Loved that book. But the last one was kind of getting into the preachy territory. And I've heard this one is the same. So I'm not excited about it. It's something that this character, this is the 6th book that she's been in. And so I didn't even download it, didn't buy it. So I probably will not make it through the entire Borrowed World series while I'm on the road, but I am looking for a few other things to listen to for sure. I did download a Milton Friedman book. He is one of the free market economists. He's passed away since, but I've been listening to a lot of his YouTube videos. So I wanted to get a feel for what he wrote about. And of course, when I get back, we're going to be working on Atlas Shrugged. We're going to be doing a 10-month discussion series, the Post-Apocalyptic Book Club. You guys know that. And we're going to have a special piece of swag for everybody who completes the book, the workshop. I don't know what we're going to call it, challenge or something. So that'll be fun. But yeah, for me, having some good books. I like music, but books are better. Podcasts are good for, local drives. But for me, long term, I need to get into a book series or Art Bell. If I'm going to be driving after dark, if there is a night when I'll be driving after dark, I'll pull out some of the old Coast to Coast reruns on Spotify. In case you are interested in the Coast to Coast reruns, somebody has been uploading all of Art Bell's shows chronologically. So every day they release another one. They started with, I believe it was December 1992. The show quality was really shitty, of course. But the first really good episode was the Ghost to Ghost episode from 1993. That was a really good one. So anyway, if you're looking for some of the old Coast to Coast Art Bell stuff, it's on Spotify again. So yeah, beyond that, I'm just kind of looking forward to getting to the get together with you guys tomorrow night. It's going to be fun. Hope everybody gets there that's supposed to get there. I'm going to knock on wood. The weather's supposed to be really good. And Robin Holstein says, I would like to find some old Wolfman Jack shows. You'd be surprised what could be out there. And you mentioned Wolfman Jack. So there was, I don't know if any of you guys remember this TV show. It was mostly Canadian, but I think it got quite a bit of play in the States as well. And it was called The Hilarious House of Frightenstein. And it had the dude that played the original Dracula in it for a lot of times. But there was a guy in there that was a werewolf that was also a radio DJ. And whenever people talk about Wolfman Jack, I always think of that dude. And that show messed me up as a kid. It was so weird. But if you ever want to see some tripped out, weird late 70s, early 80s, weird Canadian TV, look up the highlights of The Hilarious House of Frightenstein, and you guys will enjoy it. Or maybe not. I don't know. Speaking of I don't know, do you guys remember you can't do that on television? Yet another Canadian show. Alanis Morissette got her start on it. And if you said, I don't know, they drop green slime on your head. Yeah, random thought there. Nate Lemaster says, the bourbon we got is distilled in DeKalb County, Illinois. And the field they grow on is 2 minutes from our house. Really cool. And Nate says, need to buy some ham radio gear, Tim. It's import duty free in Canada. So that is one of my goals when I go to see Nate, is to learn a bit about HF. Is that right? Yeah, HF communications. Anyway, I was thinking about that today, listening to the book, and I really do need to get my my advanced ticket in Canada just so I can do long range comms with you. But it'll be really nice to have somebody who isn't 147 years old trying to show you how to do ham radio, because Nate isn't that old. He's younger than me, of course. So it'll be nice to get a feel for that, because I don't have anybody up where I live that I can just go and say, hey, could I come by and play with your radio or whatever. So I'm looking forward to learning that from Nate. Christopher John Muhammad says, my favorite station was Buffalo 29 growing up. I don't know that one, but that's cool. I grew up a talk radio fiend. I listened to it from the time I was a kid. CFBC in St. John, New Brunswick had a radio station. Tom Young was on it. It was called Talk of the Town. He had just that very distinct nasally radio voice. And of course, this was pre-internet days, so you didn't even know what the dude looked like. And he always used to joke that he had a face for radio. And yeah, he did. Finally got to see him years later on TV, but he's long since passed away. But there's something about this long form conversational style talk radio format that I just love. I enjoy it. There's something calming about it, something nostalgic about it. And it's the reason I love this the most, I think, is because it allows me to talk about all the things that don't necessarily fit into a video form on my YouTube channel. Robin says, I used to pick up WLS on late night AM stations when I was a kid. I always loved that the AM stations would come in really early, or sorry, late at night. You get them from a long distance away. And Nate says, you're more than welcome to pick my brain. I'm going to make you set up the station Saturday morning. Excellent. That's what I came for. So that'll be great. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, and I was talking today to Brian Alexovich a little bit. A bunch of us are renting a table at Self-Reliance Festival together, so we're kind of putting together all the gear. I have kind of a mobile gear setup, which maybe I'll do a little quick video of, but it's really ain't much. It's a pop-up 10x10 bright orange canopy. I got a 4 foot long fold-up table, 2 fold-up camping chairs, and that gives me everything I need to set up a booth at an event. And this time I brought my, 2500, 3000 watt solar power station with the 2 fold-up solar panels. So I'm going to set that up to play with that. And I also brought one of the smaller 500 watt solar stations. I've been using that to charge some of my USB gear while I drive. Because if you're creating power anyway while you drive, you sure as shit might as well charge your stuff so it's ready at night. And I've also got the solar panel in the back that once I start draining this stuff, I can plug that into as well. So yeah, it's kind of a cool setup. But yeah, I think that's about as far as I got tonight, guys. I think I saw us top out at 54 live viewers. So thank you, guys. This hour early seems to be a good time. And it's funny I mentioned that because Becky and I were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, that maybe when I get home in the winter, toying with the idea of moving the show an hour earlier. I don't want to overlap with some people, so I don't know. Anyway, just a thought. If you guys are interested, or give me some thought on the times, I just want to be available for. I know I've kind of stuck my foot in the sand at this 7 p.m. Mountain Time thing for 3 years now, but I realized that I've never really checked in with everybody to see, hey, would an hour earlier work better? Because I realized I'd love to be able to include everybody from the East Coast. And I know by the time I start, it's 9 o'clock at night. And if you're an old man like me, man, that's just about bedtime. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you. This is fun. I'm glad I've got this mobile station I can work with. I'm going to shoot for at least 1 live a week while I'm traveling. You're going to get a lot of pre-recorded content that I'm recording on the road. So I hope you enjoy that. But there'll be some spontaneous lives as well. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, I'm just going to be traveling around playing tourist. So you might get a couple episodes then. But you'll, like I said, I'm going to try to upload daily. You can't call it a vlog because it's not video. But anyway, one more thing. If you guys are in the Telegram group, if somebody knows an app that will take my MP3 file and turn it into a waveform video that I can upload to YouTube, very simply, let me know, because I've been struggling to find something, and I'd really like to be able to put that audio onto YouTube as well, because I don't want people to miss out on that. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you. There's a ton of new names. I love seeing you, and not new names, but it's good to see. What is that? M. Sure Rifle, or MSUR? Yeah, Rifle. Blakesley Acres, Robin Holstein. It was nice to see you, Christopher John Muhammad, Nate Lemaster. Yeah, I love seeing you, Nate. All kinds of people. It was great to see L2 survive, Byron Roberts, Tools with Souls. Always love to see everybody. So, and Ellen Kerr says, hey brother, hating not being able to make it to camp this year. Cross fingers for next year. Absolutely. And if so, I'll see you there. And if not, you can always pop in here and say hello. So appreciate you guys. And yeah, I will see Nate and everybody else who's going to be at the workshop meetup tomorrow night. Oh, I'm excited. It's so less than 7-hour drive for me now. So we'll get there. So as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.